In the heart of the desert, beneath the relentless Egyptian sun, lies a secret that has slept for millennia. A revelation so profound it has left the world in stunned silence. Why has Egypt's latest tomb revelation sent shockwaves around the globe? What ancient mysteries are we on the brink of uncovering? Join us as we delve into the shadows of the past and unearth a story that has waited thousands of years to be told. Ancient Egyptian culture is generally known for its flamboyance, which can be seen from their history and other aspects of their culture. However, this flamboyance was expressed the most when it came to deaths and burials. Ancient Egyptians had a strong yet special opinion about death. According to them, death was not the termination of life, rather, it was a passage between two worlds, the world of the living and the world of the dead. So when a person died, they believed that such a person had just begun their very long journey between both worlds. So, the tombs and burial preparations were made with this in mind. The tombs were prepared thoroughly because they believed a poorly prepared tomb could hinder a dead person's transition, just as a thoroughly prepared tomb could ease their journey. When a person died in ancient Egypt, they were first mummified and embalmed through an intense process that took over 60 days and involved the removal of internal organs and any form of moisture from the body. According to ancient customs, a body had to be embalmed if it was going to survive the journey into the afterlife. While that might raise some questions on its own, you would find it interesting that some of the millennia-old mummies discovered within the last century have maintained bodily features, like the skin, which would have been lost in regular corpses. Therefore, the thorough mummification process was highly effective. At least there is a physical testament to that. We're not sure about the spiritual stuff. In ancient Egypt, while the deceased was being mummified and embalmed, the family members took their time to prepare a befitting tomb. And there were mainly three options: pyramids, mastabas, and rock-cut tombs. These options were not available to poor families or any member of the lower social class. This category buried their dead relatives in the sands of the desert with minimal flamboyance, but it was very different for the upperclassmen and nobles, who went all out. In fact, the more important the dead person was to society, the more stunning their tomb was. One fascinating thing about Egyptian tombs is that they were essentially made to last forever. For the spiritual purpose that they served, tombs were built with strong structures that could withstand natural or man-made disturbances. The construction of these tombs usually took years, and it required a lot of preparation. In fact, before a family member died, they had a say in what their tomb should look like, and it was the responsibility of other family members to honor their wishes. Over the years, thousands of tombs, that is, pyramids, mastabas, and rock-cut tombs, have been discovered throughout Egypt, and one quality that they all share is that they were built with great precision and according to a plan. Master builders and supervisors were instructed to perform rituals during construction, and guidelines were provided on where to build, how to design, and what materials to use. Unlike regular tombs, these ancient Egyptian tombs were usually constructed to have multiple rooms, which were used for different functions. The most important ones are the actual burial chamber and a mortuary chapel nearby. These two rooms were important because they satisfied spiritual requirements. The burial chamber was built to be the most secure compartment in the entire tomb. It was the part of the tomb where the sarcophagus containing the deceased was laid, so it bore a certain significance for protecting and accommodating the body and spirit. In pyramids and mastabas, the burial chamber was located deep underground, and one would have to navigate an intricate system, almost like a maze, to get to it. However, the burial chamber was located in the inner chambers of rock-cut tombs. This part of the tomb was decorated with beautiful paintings and hieroglyphics depicting the dead person's life, and thus, ancient Egyptian art was seen mostly in the tombs of pharaohs and other Egyptian nobilities. The burial chamber held a lot of things, but the most important would be the sarcophagus of the deceased. There are different kinds of sarcophagi, and depending on a person's importance, their sarcophagus could be made from wood, gold, silver, tin, copper, and so on. Besides the mummified body of the deceased, sarcophagi also contained spells that were supposed to guide the dead person in their journey into the afterlife. This journey was also aided by the prayers of family and friends. The mortuary chapel was accessible to visitors who would come to pay respects, perform rites, or present an offering of food and drinks to the spirit of the dead. The chapels were built with false doors, through which the spirit of the dead person could enter into the mortuary chapel to accept these gifts. The mortuary chapel was the tomb compartment that had the strongest connection between the world of the living and the afterlife. The presence of false doors established this connection, and so did other components of the chapel. A standard chapel contained a figurine of Anubis, the Egyptian god of the dead, and tombs and canopic jars that contained mummified organs extracted from the deceased person during their mummification process. In the tombs of pharaohs and other Egyptian nobilities, there was a special room that contained food and the most prized possessions of the deceased. That is, their gold, crowns, favorite childhood toys, thrones, most expensive clothes, you name it. This room also contained jars of wine and water, and several sacks of food items. These were considered essentials for the dead person, to ease their journey into the afterlife. Generally, ancient Egyptian tombs were very special and complex. Their complexity was mostly structural, which differed between pyramids, mastabas, and rock-cut tombs due to the differences in the size of these structures and the societal status of whoever was being buried. However, they were all functionally the same. As aforementioned, Egypt is swarming with ancient tombs, which are jewels from the past. While there are so many tombs to talk about, we'll be mentioning some of the most important ones. Tutankhamun was a pharaoh of the 18th dynasty of ancient Egypt, who reigned from 1334 to 1325 BC. His tomb had been hidden for centuries until 1922, when a curious archaeologist accidentally stumbled upon it. The tomb is located in a place called the Valley of the Kings and is known by its tomb number, KV62. Upon discovery, it was seen that KV62 contained 5,398 objects. These included 413 shabtis, that is, figurines intended to serve the king in the afterlife, and more than 200 pieces of jewelry. In fact, the tomb and everything in it were estimated to be worth several $100 million. Although several changes have been made over the years, some artifacts have been placed in museums, some have been auctioned and sold, and others have been stolen by bandits. The antechamber, the largest room in the tomb, was covered completely on both sides with golden artifacts. At the entrance, there were 2 life-sized statues of Tutankhamun, which were placed for protection. Inside the antechamber, there were 3 wooden chairs gilded with gold, and other artifacts were placed on them. There were also statues, baskets of food, mannequins, disassembled chariots, and several chests. Some of these chests containing clothing materials, including tunics, shirts, kilts, gloves, sandals, and cosmetics. Tutankhamun was buried in a sarcophagus made with 2,500 pounds of gold. Within the sarcophagus was the mummified king, adorned with a total of 143 items, including clothes and other accessories such as sandals, amulets, several pieces of jewelry, and 2 pretty daggers. Tutankhamun's head bore a beaded skull cap and a golden diadem encased in a golden mask. This golden mask is said to be worth about $2 million, making it one of the most iconic ancient Egyptian artifacts globally. In Egypt's eastern desert, about 240 miles southeast of Cairo, the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities confirmed the discovery of over 250 tombs cut into a hill at the Al-Hamidiyya necropolis, located to the east of a city called Soag. In a report from the ministry, it was stated that although they are located side by side, these tombs were built at different times. The oldest one was reportedly built about 4,500 years ago, and the tombs ranged in age from the end of the Old Kingdom, around 2200 BC, to the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty in 30 BC. These tombs weren't lavished with the flamboyance or luxury of those of the ancient kings of Egypt or other noblemen. They are mostly simple. However, they bear remarkable details that are worth studying as well. Some of these tombs were decorated with beautiful hieroglyphics, done professionally and intentionally. These can be seen from their beautiful structural arrangements, but from the simplicity of the tombs, it is possible that they are a representation of how common people were buried back in those days. Egyptologist Bassam al-Shama said about these tombs, given their small size compared with the tombs reserved for royalty, which are of larger sizes, these tombs may have been allocated to the common people. He went on to say, this provides more details about the daily life of ordinary people at the time. Although the Egyptian dignitaries were not exactly buried in this style of tombs, the practice of making rock-cut tombs by the hillside was fairly common. But no one expected to find them in places like Al-Hamidiyya. Mastabas were not the most popular burial options in ancient Egypt, but they are as old as pyramids, maybe even older. In the beginning, they were built as pits, just dug in the sand with slabs of blocks thrown over them to maintain the privacy of the deceased. But over time, mastabas became full underground structures that met all the demands of Egyptian customs as far as burials are concerned. One example of one of this type of burial structure is the mastaba of Nefermayat I, also known as M16. Nefermayat and his wife Atet were buried in M16. From the outside, it looks like several rectangular blocks of mud bricks arranged on top of each other. But its interior features are the real reason the structure still stands after thousands of years. On the inside, M16 is lined with limestone, which is known for conferring durability on structures. To the east of the mastaba are two small separate chapels, one built in the honor of Nefermayat and the other for Atet. Each chapel contains an elaborate false door, and the walls bear paintings that portray hunters, fishermen, and farmers going about their work. These are just a few of the other beautiful wall paintings M16 is known for. According to archaeologists, the wall designs were made by sculptors who carved their designs into the plastered walls and painted the incisions, thus creating some of the most impressive paintings from the Old Kingdom. Perhaps the most beautiful painting in the M16 is the scene known as the Medium Geese, located in Atet's shrine. It is pretty remarkable how most of these artworks still have their essence thousands of years after they were painted. There aren't many ancient civilizations that protected their history and culture in the way that ancient Egyptians did. It is both interesting and impressive that concepts as simple as burial and tomb making have served as time capsules that preserved thousands of years of tradition. One can only imagine what else is hidden underneath the sands of Egypt. What tomb did you find the most interesting? Is there any other part of ancient Egyptian culture you'd love to hear about? Let us know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.